In this session, you will learn how to drive more conversions to your Amazon product listing with tested and optimized premium A+ content. And for that, I will have two great Amazon experts with me. It's Daniela Bolzmann from Mindful Goods and Chris Rawlings from Sophie Society. Before I bring the guests on the show, on this live stream, I wanted to say thanks to 5 companies which are sponsoring this session. It's Hero Fulfillment, which specializes in stress-free fulfillment and warehousing in Europe. True Ops, they provide affordable and comprehensive Amazon reimbursement services. AMZ One Step is an Amazon creatives agency that helps brands to grow by creating product photos, videos, and content. And VAA Philippines, they help with providing expert virtual assistant services for e-commerce sellers. And last but not least, Adspert is an AI-powered Amazon ads optimization tool. So thanks to these 5 companies which are sponsoring this session, and it is part of the Seller Fest online virtual event. And let me bring 2 experts for this session. It's Chris and Daniela. Hello, guys.
Hello.
Yeah.
What's
nice
up?
To see you. And let's have a short introduction by both of you. So maybe let's start with Chris, and then Daniela will continue, and then we will jump to the content.
Nice. Yeah, I'm Chris Rawlings. I operate Sophie Society. We manage a portfolio of brands, mostly doing their PPC, but using their PPC data to improve their content and thumbnails so that they can improve their click-through rate and conversion rate. And I've been doing it for a long time. I've spoken on pretty much every event that Augustus has done. And me and Daniela have been digital homies, but we still haven't gotten to hang out in person, but we comment on each other's stuff. And I think we have a mutual respect for each other. So I'm actually really, really excited to do this with her.
Amazing. And Daniela, what's your story and how do you help Amazon sellers?
Totally agree. This is a long time coming, Chris. My name is Daniela Bolzmann. I'm the founder of Mindful Goods. For the past 7, almost 8 years, we have been optimizing brands every year on their product pages, their storefronts. We see results that I'm going to share with you today in this presentation. And I'm excited to do a really advanced presentation today. This is my, I think, 3rd or 4th with Orange Klik. So I'm excited to be back.
Yeah, more to come. And while Daniela is preparing with her slides, I wanted to mention that everyone who is listening to the session, you're welcome to comment in the comment section below if you have questions. If you're watching live, write your questions in the live stream chat, and we will make sure that our not customers, but speakers answer them at the end of their presentation. We'll start with Daniela, and then Chris will join to explain more about A+ content.
All right.
All right.
You
So
ready?
we see your, we're ready. We see your screen and ready for your
Awesome.
presentation.
Let's jump right into it. And just in case, I have 2 cats that are trying to jump on top of my laptop at the same time. So let's see if we can make it through this presentation. All right, so a little bit about us. Like I said, we've been in business 7 years, optimizing content on Amazon. We have team members across 8 different countries. We've worked with over 500 brands. We're an Amazon vetted service partner. And I recently spoke at Amazon Accelerate with 2 of our clients. And we actually spoke on this topic in addition to some other topics, but I'm going to share with you some of the information that we shared at Accelerate as well. So this will be a fun presentation. Today's presentation is going to cover 3 things from my end before we get into more examples from Chris. Specifically, one, I wanted to do a quick recap of the Premium A+ content data that we shared previously. There's a whole video on this on Orange Klik's YouTube, so I encourage everyone to go check that out. And a quick recap of split testing in general. These are 2 things that before you can even jump into the advanced stuff that we're sharing today in this presentation, if you have not done step 1 and step 2 and even watched those videos, you're probably not yet ready for what we're going to share today. The stuff we're going to share today is really for advanced sellers. So just look at it from that lens and I'll kind of break it down for you. The reason why you want to be paying attention to this information is 50% of our clients are seeing increases of anywhere from $5,000 to $120,000 in increased revenue after making these content changes to their listings. And 60% of our clients are seeing sales increases of anywhere from 20 to 1,000% within 30 days of uploading their new content. So it's really important to follow the first two steps that I'm going to share today before you move on to the advanced stuff. Quick question for everybody who's watching live. If you can drop in the comments and let us know if you have basic A+ content or premium A+ content. I spoke to, every time I think that I've said this enough, I get on another call with another brand who didn't know that they could get access to premium A+ content. Today, I actually spoke to 2 brands that didn't know they could have access to premium A+ content today. So if you're selling on Seller Central, this is a reminder that you do have free access to premium A+ content. And that is what I'm going to be sharing in this entire presentation today. So you are going to want to take advantage of that. It doesn't matter if you have 1 product or 10. If you're on Seller Central and you don't have Vendor Central, you can absolutely get premium A+ content for free. Everyone qualifies. It's very simple, and I'll show you how to unlock it at the end of this presentation. This is what I'm calling the $500,000 opportunity, because we have brands today that we work with today that are paying $500,000 to Amazon for 1 ASIN per year to get advanced or to get premium A+ content. And so the reason why this is so important, and I'm just going to run through this stuff quickly because this is definitely shared in the previous videos on the Orange Klik YouTube channel, but I don't want you guys to miss this. If you want the full recap, this is just the highlights from these 2 presentations, but for the full thing with all the details of how to do all this stuff, you're going to want to check that out on the YouTube channel. But the difference is that you can have hotspots, videos, carousels, mobile content, full width content, and a seamless scroll with premium. So you see an example of premium on the right here, and on the left you see basic, which is actually like a good version of basic. There's much worse versions of basic, like this one on the left, which was the old style of doing A+ content with lots of text-heavy content. And now it's moving to this visual landing page style content where you get much more engagement and dwell time. And so is premium A+ content worth it over basic A+ content? Amazon says by upgrading to premium, you should see up to 9.7% increase in sales. We are seeing up to 400% increase in sales. This also has to do with the type of clients that we have. So I'm not saying this can happen for everybody, but for brands that specifically are leaning into branded content, very D2C style, this is for you. This is what's working for the brands we work with today. The reason why this data is so different from Amazon's is that Amazon's taking a full large data set across multiple different categories across every single brand, and their numbers are obviously going to be lower when we're working with very specific e-commerce brands with high quality visuals like you see in these examples here. We're seeing these results across all different kinds of categories as well. It's not just CPG, which happens to be a bulk of the work that we do, but we're seeing this across multiple categories. We tried to break down and understand is the results that we're seeing specifically in different modules that we're using, and it's not. So we haven't been able to tie it down to modules, although we do a carousel for most brands, and that seems to work as well. I don't think it's specifically tied to carousel. So that was basically the data behind premium A+ content, what we're seeing today. The split testing recap that you should know, and this is why it's so important that you do this before we move on to the advanced stuff. This is where you're going to start. You should have already split tested your main image, your product image stack, your titles, your bullets, your brand story, and your A+ content at least once, maybe 3 times before even moving on to this other advanced steps. That's where you're going to see the bulk of your gains. Since 2023, we've done over 200 split tests. 82% of brands that we work with saw an increase in sales. And so this is where you're going to see the bulk of those gains. So if you haven't done this, start here. 83% of brands see an increase in sales with main image testing, 86 with A+, and 71 with listing copy. So this is the place that you should start. And just so that everybody knows, this is going to be updated from my last video, where you're going to see the most increase in sales is going to be your A+ content that has the highest lift of up to 1,008% is what we've seen. The second is going to be your title and bullets. And the third is going to be your main images. Now you might think, okay, great, I'm going to start with my A+ content. A+ content is actually the heaviest lift. I don't recommend starting there. For most people, you're going to want to start with your titles and bullets. Those are the easiest things to split test. And then you're going to move on to your main image, which is going to really be focused around click-through rate. And then once you've done that, then you want to go back and optimize your A+. It's going to be the highest lift. I'm and with main images as an example of the type of main images you want to shoot for in order to get that 160% increase in sales. And again, you'll see even higher lifts in your click-through rate. And so in the last couple of months, we had a brand that reached 2,500% increase in sales across their entire catalog, and they were already a really well-established brand, a leader in their category. And so this stuff does work, and this is by using just a combination of those three things. It's title and bullet testing, main image testing, and A+ content testing. And so really, that's why, I mean, everybody should really be starting here and doing this type of testing at least once a year, top to bottom. And then you get into the advanced testing. So this is the stuff that I'm excited to share. When we think about testing, we're thinking about continual split testing. So we're not just testing once and then being like, great, that's good enough. You want to beat out your winner, you know, and you might not beat out your winner because you did a lot of pre-testing the first time. And so to walk you through that process, you want to ideate and research in the beginning. Then you're going to come up with your concepts. You're going to do what we call external testing, which is in something like IntelliV, PickFu, a Product Opinion. And if you're an advanced seller, you kind of know these tools already, at least a couple of them. Pre-validate your content, and then you're going to iterate from that data that you get back from your polls. Then you're going to put that through internal testing, which is inside of Amazon. That's why I call it internal testing. You'll put that inside of Manager Experiments, and then you'll decide if you want to go live with the wins or iterate further. And then the biggest step is that once you do that and you come up with a winner, you can put it live, but then you want to go back to the drawing board and test other things or test something else that might beat out that winner, right? So that's what I'm going to break down right now. The other thing on this one is I shared this in the past, but I want to reiterate that like these tools, I think a lot of times people question whether these tools like PickFu and IntelliV, Product Opinion, whether they're truly valid because they're not actually live on Amazon. They're not using true Amazon data per se. But in our experience, we did an audit to see of the brands that were seeing successful results on PickFu, were they seeing increases in sales? And 75% of those were seeing increases in sales. So this is a great tool that does pre-validation for you, and it does it in minutes as opposed to waiting weeks on Amazon. That's why I highly recommend doing that before you move it into actual validation inside of Amazon. So getting into these advanced testing, the way that I think about this is in these buckets. So one is messaging. The next one is sequence order. The next one is module type. The next one is color and style. The next one is visual concept, then brand stories, and then I have a bonus Rufus item for you. Now, the first thing that we want to note on this is you want to start with this top to bottom because this is actually the easiest messaging, and then it gets harder and harder in terms of like the time it'll take you to get these things done. So the lightest lift is going to be here at the top. The other thing to note is that you should only be testing one thing at a time, and that each of these things can vary by category. So, you know, testing some of these things might not matter in your category. Testing some of the things, you might see incredible gains in your category. So I definitely recommend testing all of these things because every category is going to be a little bit different. Then the next thing you want to do is actually put it into a testing plan. So we want to map out each hypothesis. You're going to do the same thing we did with that split testing image that I showed you before. We're going to analyze and look at the performance data. Then we're going to hypothesize all of the things that I just mentioned here. And we're going to break down all of the things. And actually, to make this even more simple for you, in the next examples, I broke it down even further of all the things you should be thinking about inside of each one of those buckets. So we're going to hypothesize within each bucket all of the things that we can possibly guess that we can improve in each bucket. Then we're going to prioritize which ones we think are going to move the needle the most and start those tests first. And maybe even prioritize them by biggest thing we think will have an impact and lightest lift, right? And then we want to schedule the start and end dates. And then we want to track, measure, and decide whether we're going to implement or iterate after that test is complete. One pro tip here is that designing in a modular landing page style, top to bottom and left to right, is going to allow for easier testing. I'm going to show you why that is so and how this helps us, how this helps our clients. So messaging is the first one. So the question here is, can we say it a different way? Some of the ways that we might say something a different way is with different USP-driven headlines, maybe in a different tone, something stronger, funnier, simpler, or something CTA driven. So an example of a product focused CTA would be discover the difference, experience blank today. Some examples of benefit driven CTAs would be start saving time, boost your performance. It's just thinking about these within your niche. Now there's lots of AI tools that can help you do this. The other things you want to think about within messaging is, can we say it in a different order? Should we say it in a different order? Should we say less, simple versus technical? That's a question. It's not always a given, because sometimes I like to simplify everything if we can, but there's some products that might need more technical explanation, and the shopper might value that. And so that's something that you can test if you think that that's the case with your product. Should we consider seasonal messaging during allergy season? Should we have more messaging around that? That's something we should test. How about benefits versus features? How about pairing them together versus not? And formatting of subcopy. So bullets versus icons versus paragraphs. So you can see here, actually in all of our designs, we like to play with different options. But that's actually something that you could split test. You could test doing all icons with a little bit of text. You could test doing all bullets. You could test lots of different things just within formatting. So remember, with each one of these items within messaging, we want to change one thing at a time. We're not doing all of these things at the same time because we want to know what's working, right? And sometimes this can take a little bit of time to test. So you want to focus on the things that you think are going to have the best impact. But you also want to test one thing at a time. Maybe I would do a couple at a time, but I wouldn't fully change everything. I would try to keep it a very straightforward test. The next item in sequence order is going to be figuring out what is the most important content to shoppers. So when we build content, this is what I mean by landing page style, top to bottom and left to right. Everything kind of flows. But if I wanted to, I could move these around. But the way we built this content is that we pulled the data and the research in advance. We tried to understand from data dive and from researching the reviews of our listing and our competitors and pulling our PPC reports, all of the data that I talked about in the previous Orange Klik videos, pulling all that together and understanding what are the top 5 selling points that we need to be hitting on our images, and what are we showing and what are we telling, and then we structure them in the order that we think is most important or that the data tells us is more important. But that can all be tested on Amazon. And so something that you could do is you could move the order. So right now I have the media mentions here on this second banner, and then I have the size chart on banner 4. Well, what if the size chart is actually the most important thing? All I would have to do is just swap these, right? And so if you design in this modular way, you can move your content up and down. You don't necessarily have to keep going back to your designer and having them change things and going around in circles. Like, you can just build content this way so that you can easily swap it out. And then you can figure out really what is most crucial. So here you uploaded this version as your first version. Let's say it performed well and you were curious, well, what happens if we move that size chart up to the top? Plus there's more a person holding the product right there, a happy person holding the product, and we have a size chart right there at the top. Like, does that help conversion? Yes or no? So we can move that up, slide this one down, test it for 2 to 4 weeks, see how it performs. You can also test the order of your carousels, left to right. So the way that I think about this is like, this content that's here on your homepage, this content should be the top 5 most important things. Everything behind that should be secondary content. It's like the nice to have content, the educational content. It's not the stuff that's going to necessarily, need to happen to check off in their mind. It's the stuff that's like the additional bonus item that they're like, oh, great, I didn't know I had that, So yes, you want that stuff there, but you might think that that's a secondary item, and when it's really a primary item. And so I'd encourage you to look through your carousels and make sure that those are in the right order as well. That can be something that's easy to test. Next type is the module type. And so there's different modules that you can play around with. You could do with and without carousels. Like I said, we've had the best performance gains with carousels, but that's not to say that you need carousels. I know that there's a lot of sellers that don't want people going into carousels for some reason. I tend to think carousels are great to increase dwell time if you do them right. So I lean into carousels, but you could test with and without hotspots. And so hotspots are going to be the little dots that show up that you put on your image. And let's say you had your family of product. Let's say you had a line of supplements. You could click on the image, and then it would tell you a little bit more about maybe this one's for hair and nails, and this one's for general health, and this one's for something else. And so you could have hotspots that kind of guide shoppers through which product is for what. You could have more information about the steps of how to make something. You could have just other things to think about, like reinforcing the point that you're trying to drive home on an image. And usually within A+ content, there's somewhere for you to put a hotspot. So that's something that you could test. The question is, for number 3, is not if you should have video, because you should always have video at this point. And if you have video, now it's about how much video and where. So do we want it as the second banner? Do we want it as an anchor? Do we want it at the top to be the first thing they watch? Do we want multiple videos? Do we want to have a carousel with video? Do we notice conversion going up when we have more video? Do we not? Like, these are the questions. These are the questions that we need to answer with split testing. All of this needs to be tested. I can't know this automatically. I can make assumptions, but it might be different. And each video might perform differently too. So you might have to make an assumption around, or even pull your social media data to see which videos are resonating with your audience on social, and then test those in Amazon. And then lastly, comparison tables definitely might vary by category. So while we tend to lean into the add to cart comparison table, there's loads of others that have other benefits. And so you might want to play with those and see which ones work best for your category. Those ones can definitely be category specific. The next bucket of color and style. So this is an example of, a first iteration that we did for a brand, and they let us know, they were like, we don't know if we want to stick with our brand colors. And we're like, great, let's try something else. So we did a different iteration where we went with more natural hues, and then we made the pink their accent color instead of being at the forefront. So you can literally, you can see a lot of the content's the same. We're just trying a completely different color and style, but you can think about just changing the color from light to dark. You can think about changing your accent colors. You can think about changing your fonts. This also has different fonts. You can think about doing all solid background, or breaking it up with a pattern disrupt or color disrupt by doing something like we have here, where we have color, neutrals, black, white, black. And this works really well in your product images. When you have more than one color, it kind of draws people to your product images and makes them want to scroll through it. So I encourage testing that as well. And then visual concept. So the way that I think about this is, how else can we show this concept? And this is the heaviest lift out of all of them, because this takes your designer, this takes you really thinking through ideation of like, how can we communicate this better? What would be a different way to digest this piece of information? Can we show a person holding it? What else can we do? Can we show different models? Can we show different cats? Can we show, for instance, with dog products, like people want to see their dog sometimes to know if this product is going to work for their dog. Let's say it's a harness, like they kind of want to see their breed of dog in the harness. They know, okay, great, they do have a size for my dog. Or a dog that's different sizes, or if you have an older dog or an older cat or younger cat. So you want to be thinking through those elements. And the last piece of that is thinking through, are we doing product-centric versus brand-centric content? So oftentimes your product images are very focused on your product, but your A+ content can be a great place to play around and see, okay, do we want everything to be focused on our product, or do we want to anchor, maybe have a cross-sell image and anchor with our founder story, and a little bit more about our brand, maybe built into a carousel. Like, there's lots more that you can explore there, and that's something worth testing for sure. And especially if you only have a few products, you might lean into your brand building a little bit more. But here's an example on the right here of like, these are easy content changes that you could do in this scenario, where let's say like maybe having a person holding their cat and showing love and affection at the top would actually perform better or be more attention grabbing. Maybe showing somebody feeding their cat, since this is a supplement, maybe that would speak to people. Maybe showing the cats eating would be a more interesting way to show how easy this is to feed to your cat. So these images are all appealing in their own right, but I don't know if they're going to necessarily perform better than what's here. The only way to know is if we test it. Other ways to look at this concepting is like, for instance, we wanted to test, what if we had a family of product and we introduced that at the top versus this like person holding their pets, which is beautiful and lovely. But maybe showing that they have all of these products will help build trust and help show that they're a more established brand. And that's something we can easily test by swapping this out. Maybe we want to, instead of showing the product here with a person holding their cat and showing these benefits, maybe we want to break down more of the benefits, and maybe we want to show a person holding the product with their hand, just to have that touch of the product at the forefront. And maybe we don't want to have this at all. Maybe we want these cats to be as big and in your face as possible so that they stop the scroll and you pay attention a little bit more. And again, maybe you want to test changing this bottom image down here to test a different concept altogether. And so these are all different ways that you could play around with your content if you're building modularly as you're designing, right? Like these aren't huge, these aren't redesigns at all. What we're doing when we're building this content is oftentimes a lot of this stuff was already a different image. Like this image right here was already built into a carousel. So now I'm just moving it and trying to see if it performs better in the front. Brand story is another thing that we need to consider and we need to test. I think that this is a great place that we need to think about driving traffic to storefront, because there's only a few places to do that from your product page. All three are very, they're not very in your face. They're kind of hidden for the shopper. So while I think the custom visual content is the hook, I think you need to layer in as much of these 4-up product cards to get people to click to go to your storefront. And so I could imagine like you could have every 2 or every 3 of these pretty images, you could have another one of these or another 2 of these, and just kind of keep people engaged through the hooks of the content, but drive them to the storefront. Like that's the goal, right? And so this is an area that I think more brands can be testing and will be testing for sure in the future. This hasn't up until now been a heavy focus for us, but I think this will be in the future. And then the bonus item, this is from Jeff Allen. He actually shared this on a post. He wanted Chris and I to talk about this. So better than us sharing, I just want to share his suggestion of how he's using Rufus right now, which I think is super powerful. And we're definitely going to be leaning into this as well. On his recommendation is asking Rufus which questions, asking Rufus a question of what do customers like most about the product from the PDP, from our product page, and then asking it what they don't like, and then use those questions, ask the same questions to your competitors' product pages, and then gather all of and on the search page, gather all of that up, and then help it, use that to help you construct your image plan or to construct your hypothesis and test your content even further. So this is a great bonus tip from Jeff Allen. So shout out to Jeff. And then, as I promised, unlocking your premium A+. So if you click here on the YouTube video later, this will take you to a tutorial on our website that shows you exactly where to click in your A+ content to basically duplicate and submit your A+ content multiple times until it is unlocked. And the other qualification is making sure that you have brand story applied to every ASIN. But even if you have one product, you should be able to unlock your premium A+ content. We've done it for hundreds of brands this year. You can do it, I promise you. So definitely check out this tutorial. Don't miss out on this. It's a big recommended item. So that is my presentation. One thing I will say is we do have a mini audit. If brands want us to take a look at their product page, you can submit it to us. It's at the bottom of our homepage, and you get $100 off with the code OrangeClick100.
Cool. Thank you very much, Daniela. And make sure that you send us that link for tutorial how to get premium unlocked, because people cannot click on the video itself. So we need that link. So those who are watching, you will get it in the description within like 1 day or so.
Awesome.
And now I think we're ready for Chris' continuation on this topic, and then later we'll do some questions. And actually, those who are watching, don't forget to type your questions into the live stream chat or in your comment section, in our comment or in everybody's comment section below, and we will ask Daniela and Chris to answer later if you're watching the replay. All right. So, Chris, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, I think, yeah, we can see your screen. Everything is working fine.
Nice. First of all, I just want to say I agree with everything that Daniela just went over. She's got the 100% right attitude about this being completely data focused, split testing continuously, focusing on the highest leverage changes first. All of that stuff is the type of ethos that builds greatness on the Amazon platform. And that's what the 8 and 9 figure brands that we work with have as a permanent installation in the culture of the company itself. So if if you needed another reason to take everything Daniela just said really seriously, I definitely second it and endorse it. Literally everything that she just said. Very, very smart advice there. So take that seriously. And what I'm going to do is, since we went over some advanced strategies, tactics, mindsets in Daniela's section there, I'm going to zoom into the nitty gritty. We'll talk tactical stuff. And I'm actually going to share through 3 examples of premium A+ content, all of which had at least a 35% improvement in conversion rate relative, and some of which had percentage improvements that were in the hundreds of percentages. Because again, some of the numbers that Daniela shared might sound really crazy, but you can take a conversion rate from, you can like 3-4x a conversion rate if you do this properly for certain brands, depending on what life cycle stage they're at. It is possible. And actually, the first example that I'm going to share with you guys did exactly that. It was more than 4x the original conversion rate once Premium A+ was loaded, and that was the primary change that caused that jump. So this is really powerful stuff, and the reason is because it allows you to intimately communicate with the shopper in an interactive way. And this is the first time in the Amazon design platform's history that was possible. It was always static content. The only interaction you were doing was scrolling with your thumb. And now there are all kinds of interactions you can do. Daniela mentioned the hotspot hover over. There's scrolls, play buttons for videos. There's all kinds of buttons to change in certain scrollers. So what I'm going to first do, and this might feel overwhelming, but the first thing we're going to do is actually look at all of the available modules currently for Premium A+ content. And it's a lot, dude. It's a lot. There's 19, but you don't have to use all 19. In fact, you can't use all 19. You can only use 7. So you really don't have to focus on all of these. But I mean, y'all will have access to this once you get access to Premium A+ content. But in case that you don't, and you're going to be working using the SOP that Daniela mentioned, which is have brand story on all your ASINs and have anywhere between 5 and 12 regular A+ content submissions. Depends on the brand. They say 5, but actually it still takes more than 10. So if you don't get it after 5, just keep trying, and you will get there. But in any case, if you don't have it, here's your little sneak peek. So take a screenshot of this, and you can start planning it before you even get it. So this is all of the module options available to you in A+ content. I won't walk through every single one because, first of all, that'd be overwhelming. But I'm going to highlight some of the most important ones. So you see in the bottom near the middle, there's the premium Q&A. I think that this is a very underrated one, since Q&A stopped being added to as default as part of listings in most categories on Amazon. It became less straightforward to use the absolutely money strategy of preventing bad reviews through asking the question that the answer of which would keep somebody who shouldn't buy the product from buying it. And by that, I mean, you'll find when you sift through your bad reviews that if you have enough of them, that patterns come up. That, for example, I used to sell spinal health products. They were made of memory foam. When memory foam is cold, it gets hard. So there was no defect with the product, but customers would leave bad reviews saying, this is hard. It's supposed to support my posture, but it's too hard. It's not conforming to my back. Well, all they actually had to do was wait like 5 minutes for it to warm up to their body while they're sitting, and it actually conformed perfectly. Adding that as information back in the old Q&A module days prevented those bad reviews from coming in once I identified the pattern. So this Q&A can do that in a very interactive way because it's cute little drop downs that you have. So that's an underrated one. But as Daniela said, I'm a proponent of using mostly visual content. The only non-visual content modules that you want to pay attention to are potentially the Q&A, if you have room for it out of your 7, and the comparison table. And you'll notice that in the upper right, the comparison tables, that's where you'll find the comparison tables here. There's 3 different types of comparison tables, and they all act differently on both desktop and mobile. And even though Amazon is giving you a little desktop preview here of what each module is, it's completely different on mobile. And I'm going to show you guys exactly how, because I'm going to walk through an A+ content that we made that quadrupled conversion rate, the one I was referencing before, on desktop. And then I'm going to walk you through it on mobile. And you're going to see how different the interaction is. It's completely different. Some like clicks turn into hoverovers turn into scrolls, and arrow buttons no longer exist. Like these modules, the whole point of Premium A+ content, Amazon stated this themselves, is to make it mobile friendly so that it's easier to navigate on a mobile device. There are certain things like you'll see the 4 images in text, and these carousels. So these carousel modules, the only type of carousel module that you had besides the product carousel comparison table was in regular A+ content, showed very awkwardly on mobile. It was like square images that don't take up the full width, and there was a whole bunch of white space, and the text took up way too much space. On these carousels, it's like super seamless. In fact, in some of the examples that you probably saw Daniela sharing as well, they blend into each other. So it doesn't even look like different modules if you design it properly. It actually just looks like one long, beautifully designed infographic, but it's totally interactive. So yeah, with that said, I'm not going to walk through every single one of these, but I don't have to, because what I'm going to do is show you some examples of which ones are most important anyway. But if you don't have access, this is your chance to see everything that's available to you. So I'd recommend that you screenshot this right now. I don't think Amazon would get mad at me for that. All right. So here it is. This is the first Premium A+ content design that we're talking about that had a dramatic impact. This went from single digits, low single digit conversion rates to mid to high double digit conversion rates in the teens. But that's, that's everything for our brand. When you're in the low single digits, it's very difficult to compete, very difficult to stick ranking, very difficult to make PPC economical. This can, a change that takes you from the single digits to the high teens in conversion rates makes you actually in the game competitively. So we always like to start out with a striking hero image. And if it's ever possible, we love to use kids' faces, or puppies and cats are always great. So when it's in a space that allows you to do that, that's awesome, super powerful. But it should be something really striking and communicate a very simple idea. So this brand has, it's literally single word. That's how simple they've honed it down to define their brand identity and what their product, the meaning behind their products, which are really, really, really cool. They've actually taken the time to think about that. And then we have a carousel. And like you could see, for those of you guys that are used to normal A+ content, this is dramatically different, right? It like takes up the entire width of the screen. It doesn't awkwardly place the things next to each other. There's no white space whatsoever. There's 0 white space. In fact, I think if I went to 100% here, I'm at 75, it would actually go all the way to the edges of the screen here, which that's incredible, right? That just is such a better user experience. Now, this is a completely different experience on mobile, and we're about to get into that when I pull up the mobile view. But yeah, so in the carousel, so Daniela touched on this briefly as well, but in the static images, your most important messages should be shared there, and the most direct and simple messages that you really want to drive home and repeat. The carousels are really good for benefits and for features because they can click through. If you show one feature, like for this one, for example, stretchy fabric, right? That's a simple feature. And it includes the benefits. So this is feature and benefit, stretchy fabric, and it outlasts. So it doesn't wear out, right? Because it stretches. So it doesn't rip or tear. This is, if somebody sees this, they know because of these arrows that they're going to find another feature when they click. So if everything is feature benefit, it prompts them to click rather than it just being completely random. And this allows them to dig in a little bit more. And again, the interactive nature of this is what's important because it's not passive. It's not one way. It actually prompts them to do something. So now there's information going into them from the A+ content, and they're interacting through their finger actuators to get the content that they want. Yeah, so here we did another really heavily featured nitty-gritty details led carousel, which depending on the product and how technical it is, for this one, for example, we needed the sizing chart. You can probably live with one, and this is where you can hot swap out modules. Like if you didn't want to have two carousels, you could just do a Q&A module instead, or another static image module for a really powerful message. Now, one thing that I hope that you guys are noticing is that the text is really big on this. And the reason is because nearly 3/4 of people who are actually viewing this are viewing it on mobile. So the way to view premium A+ content, and really your listings in general, is design for mobile first, then check to make sure that it's good on desktop, not the other way around. So think of, and this is why it's kind of annoying that I won't go back to the modules, but it's kind of annoying that Amazon only shows you the preview of what it looks like on desktop, and then it's kind of up to you to test what it would look like on mobile. But yeah, it's just what you have to do. Just always make sure, check it on mobile, and then if it looks good on desktop, that's kind of like a bonus, not the other way around. So yeah, features, benefits. Now this is one of the types of comparison tables. So, and there's a few different ones, right? So I can switch each side. Oh, and this side, this one's not letting me do that. Oh, no, because this is this product. Yeah. So I can compare with a bunch of other products in my line and see the different features updated in the box in the middle. Now, again, this is one that this works completely different on mobile, but I like this one because some of the other comparison tables don't, and we'll see them in some of the other examples that we'll share. I'm going to go through 3 different premium A+ content examples for you guys, all of which had a dramatic impact on sales revenue. This one is a little bit more graceful if you don't have a ton of different metrics to share. If they're all different types of kind of feature categories, then the standard comparison table makes sense. But if there's not, this is a little bit more elegant. Another static image is kind of like the heart, just like Daniela was sharing with a lot of her examples. Really powerful if you can share the brand story and share the actual brand founder, like in this case. And we were able to use the Q&A module for this, and that's partially because apparel it's got to be one of the highest, if not the highest, return rates on Amazon. It's ungodly high. For those of you guys that have never been exposed to apparel, you'd throw up, you'd yak all over your desk right now if I told you the return rates that you get in apparel. It's abusively high. So putting this information in up front is totally worth it as Q&A. The machine washable, running true to size, tags, and stuff like that, because it prevents negative reviews from coming in. Now let's look at the mobile version. And this, I took a video of it to share with you guys, so we're going to speed through it, but we'll continue going down. So you can see how different that is. Now I'm going to just do this piece by piece. So the way this works is Amazon did this intentionally. You remember how these carousels worked on desktop. There were edge to edge and there were clickable buttons. This is a flick. The only way to switch to the next card is to flick, just like on Instagram or Tinder or pretty much any other platform that has carousels, Facebook, because that is what mobile users are used to doing. They want to see the next thing that's in the same category. You swipe to the left or to the right with your thumb. And so this is really, really native to mobile users, which again is 3/4 of the traffic, making it a lot more of a positive user experience. And this is part of the reason why some of those crazy gains, those like hundreds of percentages and thousands of percentages that Daniela was sharing, that's real, especially for brands in early stage, because this could just be the difference between a product that can rank and a product that just can't rank, or it can rank, but it can never stick to rank. So those were the two swipeable carousels right next to each other. Now we're going to get into this comparison and you'll see how this works. So there's 3 different types of these, remember. This one in particular, remember how on desktop it showed the product itself and then it showed other products to compare it to, and the product stayed and there was a table in the middle and the other product you could switch? On mobile, you switch the entire thing just by swiping it. But you have a button link to take you to the ASIN. So this is really cool because it's basically like ads. Like if you didn't have this space, your A+ content would just be shorter and Amazon would fill that space with ASIN targeted ads from your competitors. So this is literally as good as ads for free. It's 0% ACoS ads space, we like to say, because if it wasn't here, Amazon would just show more ads that went to ASINs that weren't yours. So every brand, if you have more than one ASIN, should be using one of the 3 comparison table features. Doesn't really matter that much which one you use. Just pick one, make sure it works and works well on mobile. I'm going to show you how the other ones work in the next example I'm about to share, and just go with it because it just makes sense. So you see how like what the text that looked really big on desktop actually just looks normal on mobile. This is pretty much as small as it could get. So we fit as much as we could without having text that's too small. And then the Q&A dropdown is like tap dropdown boxes. So it really makes the experience fun for a mobile user. Like there are all kinds, there's swipes, there's taps, there's buttons to press, there's drop downs, and it's way more user friendly for a mobile user versus basic A+ content that has 0 interaction. The only interaction you can do with regular A+ content is scroll. Okay, let's look at another one. So this is premium A+ content that we created for a backpack company. You can see again, we've got a huge, bold headline graphic that's very light on text, heavy on imagery. That needs to start every single A+ or premium A+ content project that you do. Here is what I was talking about before, where you can just run them into each other. Like if you didn't know better, you might think that this entire scroll is one module, but it's 2 modules that are designed to run into each other like one big long infographic. That's a great way to design your A+ content. It doesn't all have to run into each other, but if parts of it do, it makes it a lot more of a seamless experience. And again, we have here benefits and features. So wet conditions, no discomfort, protected. And this, similar to what Daniela was saying before, is where you want to dive into the nitty gritty. The big, bold messages that you want to make sure everybody sees should be in the static images, and the carousel is where they are able to dive deep. And those are the people that are already sold emotionally. They only logically need to convince themselves that it's a good idea. And hence, we're selling with logic to those people, which is the minority. And to sell with logic, that's selling on features. So here's a different implementation of that. Instead of doing 2 scrollable carousels, like in the last example, we did the hover over hotspot. That was referenced by Daniela earlier. This is another one that's dramatically different on mobile. I mean, it's completely different. Obviously, nothing happens when you hover your thumb over something on mobile, right? So hover over hotspots don't work on mobile. It works totally different. But this is, again, yet another cool way for users to interact with the brand, right? This like reminds me of like the HTML days, because I'm old enough to remember like websites when they were coded with HTML and we had MySpaces and you had to like learn HTML to change the color in the song in the background of your MySpace. Yeah, dude, I'm old in internet years. But this reminds me of how exciting it was for everyone that was used to static websites that started using JavaScript and stuff that got interactive and were able to actually have functionality and mini apps and stuff like that. This is the first time that you could interact with anything on Amazon like this. There wasn't any kind of hover over or anything, except for brands that paid or tens or hundreds of thousands, like Daniela was saying before, that only huge brands could access content like this. So if you don't have it, now you know between me and Daniela that you can, and it's really easy to get access to it. You should have it. All right, so here's an example of a different type of carousel where we have the clickable buttons. So in this case, it's 3 different use cases: traveling, camping, water activities. And you can tap to the one that matters to you, which is pretty cool. And once again, we're just using huge, big, bold visuals and text that's big so that it won't get too small to read on mobile. If you're trying to fit too much information in, trust me, the additional information that you're squeezing in there is not worth nobody being able to read it in the first place for 75% of users. That is the worst trade ever. Just cut it down, even if you have to cut out, like a lot of times when you write the content of your listing, it's like your baby. And you're like, no, they have to know this. This is my product and they have to know all the features. No, they just have to be able to read it on mobile. That's really what they need. So if you can't fit it, just cut it down. You know what I love to do with this is just use ChatGPT to cut things down. If you're like, look, I can't cut this down, just ask ChatGPT. I need to keep the main meaning behind this passage. Just cut it down to half the size or a third the size. And ChatGPT is really, really good at that kind of thing. Okay, so this is the comparison table, really similar to a classic comparison table. Best part about this comparison table is the add to cart button. So if you click the image, it brings you to the listing. So this is a link to the listing. And if you click the add to cart button, it puts it right in their cart, just like they have on thumbnails now, which is awesome. It also shows the review rating, which could be good or it could be bad, depending on if your other products have good or bad review ratings, and the price, which again could be good or bad. But that's up to you. So you don't have to show this. And like I said before, there's 3 different versions of the comparison table now. So, and again, I have to say that, oh, we don't have a brand story on this, but I have to say that I agree with Daniela as well, that when it comes to getting links to your other listings and your storefronts, you want to do it as much as possible without sacrificing the quality of the content messaging. So getting links, this is basically like free Amazon PPC, but it's even better because it shows way more information and it takes up an entire scroll, actually more. It's like a scroll and a quarter. So I definitely would not pass up the opportunity. As long as you have multiple ASINs, you should be using it. And then again here, made sense because backpacks are things that are fickle. People try to fit them, they don't fit, or it doesn't do what they wanted. So the Q&A helps prevent bad reviews. It's a super powerful tool to increase your review rating, not your review velocity, but your review rating by preventing bad reviews. Sweet. Okay, so I didn't record the mobile version of this, but you guys are welcome to just look it up. It's just the 0 grid waterproof backpack. And then we have a product in a completely different space. And this one, again, uses the strategy that I mentioned to you guys before, which runs the modules into one another. And I really just love this because I think it produces a much better user experience. But you can see this, even though it looks like one big image that partially can be played. This is actually a module of an image on top, and then below it's a video module that actually just has the background video as the same as what the bottom half of that image would be. So just a little trick that you can make these premium A+ contents pop. Now again, you'll hopefully you guys are starting to notice patterns. The text is big, right? It almost seems unnecessarily big on desktop, and that's because that's what it needs to be for it to be mobile used on mobile. We have a scrollable carousel. So you guys can see all those 19 modules that I shared with you guys earlier. You don't need most of those. There's really only a few that you need to focus on, and you only have room for 7 anyway. So here's another hover over hotspot style, just focusing on 5 different benefits and or features. Another scrollable carousel, in our case, focusing on benefits. We have a feature section, our benefit section that references the feature section. And then we have the same carousel, but the same comparison table, but we actually loaded more products into here. So the right scroll is how you get over, and on mobile, you actually click buttons that correlate with each of these categories: customer reviews, price, premium, ingredients, vegan friendly, and then it pulls up all of them in a grid, and you can see what that particular field's value is under each one in the square. Finally, one big bold image, and we opted to go with testimonials in this case. Is another thing Daniela touched on briefly, but if you can do testimonials, reviews, it's one of the most powerful ways to influence buyer decisions. So with that, I am right on time to the minute. We can get into our little Q&A here, guys.
Yes, cool. Thank you very much, Chris. And thank you, Daniela, for previous presentation. We're already 1 hour here, and we will be very quick in the next segments of this session. First, I wanted to mention that this session is part of the Seller Fest online virtual event, where we invited about 24, I think, different Amazon experts, and we asked them to send us additional video, which we call a VAP video, and there we presented all these videos we collected into a VAP package, and you can get access to it, and you will find a link below in the description to read more about each of the videos. And one of the videos was provided by Chris, one by Daniela, which is also a guest in this specific session. And once you upgrade to the VP package, you will get access to the members area, which looks like this, and then you will be able to access Daniela's and Chris' videos. Daniela, can you share very shortly, like in 1-2 sentences, what is your video about?
Yeah, so if you've seen any of the storefronts that we shared, we have another video with Orange Click about storefronts, and we shared some of the amazing advanced stuff we're doing with storefront design. But one of the little tricks that we have is how to create looping videos with no sound that kind of look like a GIF. And so people always message us and say, how do you do GIFs? How are you doing GIFs on Amazon when you're not allowed to do GIFs on Amazon? It's a background video trick. So you'll get a tutorial on how to do that.
Great, thank you. And Chris, what was your video about?
It's all about how to use brand story to increase conversion rates on Amazon.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much. And yeah, again, you'll find the link below in the description.
I want that one.
The VP package is all the speakers.
I want yours. Should trade.
I want yours.
All right. So yeah, let's get into the questions. Let's see. Singleton says, Daniela mentioned that some sellers don't like to use carousels. Why is that?
I think it's a personal preference. Some people don't like the idea of their customer having to go deep into things. But sometimes that can be as Chris was saying, a different shopper might want a different experience, and so you might need a little bit more to give them to explain something, or they might need a little bit more education to just get them to put it in their cart. So for me, I think it's another way to engage them, keep them on your content longer, and that's the game, right? Is keeping them on your content instead of having them click to see your competitors' ads.
Cool. And let's hide this. All right. Another question I would like to ask about, of course, everybody's talking about AI. How important is A+ or premium A+ for Rufus AI? Does it impact product recommendations? Have you tested it, or what's your experience?
I have done some early testing, and I'm chatting with the team at Amazon about this right now. I don't think it's connected yet. I do think it will be in the future. So I think the pro tip that I gave earlier is going to be super helpful to think about now as you're building your content, so that you can get ready for when particular parts of your content is shared with Rufus and when images are scanned and translated for Rufus. So I would anticipate that is coming.
Yeah, even if it's not a direct impact, loading premium A+ content is going to indirectly powerfully impact Rufus recommendations because of its impact on your conversion. Because Rufus is looking for listings that are relevant to particular problems, needs, and prompts. So if you're converting higher, or your click-through rate is higher, then Amazon reads that as this listing is more relevant for this problem, i.e., you're going to be your probability goes up of showing up in the results. So even before it's the images are directly scanned and implemented or being fed, served up as part of Rufus, this is already like teeing you up to maximize your potential with this new paradigm of search. Because I mean, this is kind of the same thing that we went through when we were back in the day. For those of you guys that have been selling for a while, you could just hack the system by doing like a 300 unit giveaway one day. And then it turned out that, Amazon figured out how to make the algorithm really rank the products that actually were the best. And it's still not perfect. There's still hacks that you can do, but it's getting better and better at that. It always just comes down to those fundamentals. Like if you want to sell, it's just really good product quality, really high converting listing, really high click-through rate thumbnail. That's Amazon's going to serve you up every way they possibly can.
All right, cool. And we have a question for you both. Well, the person is asking, at what life cycle stage do you generally prefer to be approached by Amazon sellers to impact their business? So in other words, what type of minimum Amazon business you would like to work with, and if somebody wants to work with you?
I don't know about you, Chris. I mean, we serve a wide mix. I would say a third of our clients are net new to Amazon. A third are emerging brands, challenger brands, and then we have, I would say, less than a third are the enterprise level brands. So, I mean, we help brands at all stages, but it really just depends on, like, there's a lot of stuff you can do before you work with us specifically. I mean, I think we're one of the more expensive providers in the space, to be honest. So I always like for brands to have validated their product, validated some of their content, some of their assumptions before working with us, have some assets, show that you've invested in your own product images, and get things to where you kind of have a good handle on it and you just want to take it to the next level is a really great place, a really smart place to start,
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah, for us, it's less about the product lifecycle stage and it's more about the founders and the product. If the product is good, we're happy to get behind it. It really, any stage you can use services like mine and Daniela's, because all you're doing is trading money for time. Because you could figure out how to do everything that we just said yourself. And that's the point of you viewing this session right now, because you can go back and use the tactical stuff I shared and the strategic stuff that Daniela shared to make your own brand content or get, really, really cheap freelancers that you try to teach them, the same processes that we made. It's just going to take you time, and you'll get there, but it'll take you time. And you can trade that time you could trade money to forego that time. So that's really what it comes down to. Like, the testing it out yourself, learning from failures is a way to spend time to get the result. And hiring professionals is a way to spend money to get the result. So I think both Daniela and I are in the same position where we'll work with brands at any stage. I mean, it's really fun to work with brands that are more mature, because when you have an impact of, like, taking conversion rate from 18% to 23%, it means like hundreds of thousands of dollars in bottom line change, which is like, always an astounding experience for the brand owner. But I'm equally happy to work with a brand owner who literally just launched if the founder is good and the product is good.
Great.
I see
Thank
Jeff
you.
Allen in the comments too. Jeff Allen was the one that gave that Roofies pro tip earlier.
Oh yeah, that was
Hi,
your
Jeff.
screenshot.
Yeah.
Nice.
Jeff, how do you get A+ premium if you are vendor central?
You pay for it. Pay to play, baby. That's the only way right now, I think, or negotiate your way into it. But yeah, it's not free on the vendor side yet, unfortunately.
All right, and question from Sarah: how does seasonal A+ content impact overall performance? For example, does implementing Christmas themed A+ help with conversions?
This is funny. This is one of my pet peeves, but I think it's totally product specific. It's one of my pet peeves because I feel like, people even selling like a water bottle, they're just gonna put a pumpkin next to their like, it's just, like, we had a client that sells Christmas ornaments. Obviously, we're gonna Christmas it out, but not every product is a Christmas giftable item. Can the product be gifted for Christmas? Great. Doesn't mean people are going to buy it more for Halloween and for Mother's Day and for Valentine's Day. And so you really have to think through and make smart choices. I think on your storefront, it's a really easy place for you to do that kind of testing, because you can have versions of your content. So you can set it up once for the year, and then you can refresh it a little bit the next year. It makes it really simple. But I think other ways that you can think about seasonal content is less about holiday and more about, like, is there seasonal allergies? Is your product used more in the summertime, as opposed to thinking about just Christmas or just Christmas and Halloween, for instance?
All right, I think that's it. Thank you very much, Daniela and Chris. Very quickly, I will show also the website of Daniela and Chris. So Daniela, can you remind us, how do you help Amazon sellers? Here is your website. So if someone wants to visit it.
I think you're on our services page. But if you go to the homepage, just click on that chat button and book a call, and that's how you can get a hold of us. That's really the best way. But if you want to learn more about our services here and see examples, we have a whole showcase of examples. We have loads of case studies, tons of testimonials. You can kind of see the example of the work we do, the types of clients we work with. It's all there. The mini audit is at the very bottom. So if you want us to take a look and audit your listing, it's either myself or one of my creative directors. We record a Loom video, walk you through the top pillars that we would change for your listing. And you can either take that and send it to your designer and have them make the changes, or you can hire us to do it for you. It's totally up to you.
It's a very long sales page.
It's a long
Daniela
sales page. Very informative.
And if I want to scroll fast, it had a lot of blank, but now it loaded everything. Yeah. All right, cool. Yeah, so much information. Why do you have even menus at the top if everything is on the sales page?
Well, the showcase is completely different. Yeah.
All right, thank you. And now, Sophie Society. What do you do?
Yeah.
How do you?
Yeah, so for us, it's an application process. Our primary thing is partnering with brands to take over their PPC and grow them profitably. So we take over your PPC, we clean it up, we set it up for success. We know what we're doing. We run the #1 most well-attended Amazon PPC-focused digital event in the world, and I know that's a lot of qualifiers, but we're proud of it. And so You just click that green button, apply. It takes like 45 seconds. And then you can see if you qualify to partner with us. And if it makes sense, where it comes into play, where what we were talking about today comes into play is what makes us not an agency, a PPC agency, is we're taking over the PPC, but we also use all the data in your PPC to inform what needs to be done in the thumbnail, in the listing, and elsewhere in the business for the whole business to grow. Because the Amazon PPC data is your #1 data source, because it's the data that actually represents acting with your products, unlike data that you get from your research tools or Product Opportunity Explorer or anywhere else. The PPC data is #1. So we interpret the data, turn it into insights and analysis, and give you direct actions to take to grow your brand right now. So yeah, click that green button if that sounds interesting to you guys, or you can just follow me and Daniela on LinkedIn and chat with us now and again when we post.
One day we should compare sales pages. This one is also very long, but look, Daniela, there are no menu items at the top. There are only the same CTA, call to action button, which does the same.
Ours works. I'll tell you, it works.
It works. It works.
I can't put my showcase on the homepage. Our showcase says, click on showcase. Click on showcase at the very top.
Showcase. All right.
I can't put this on my homepage. Okay.
Please, do you have something like that? No. Okay.
I love this. It's great.
PPC,
yeah, and that's not gonna take that'll take forever to load on that homepage. So that's not going there.
and brands agree to share all this. It's nice.
All of it's public anyways.
Yeah, cool. Oh, really? It's all on Amazon. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to have you again. And good night for for most of us. Thank you.
Loved it. Thank you guys. Thank you, Augustus, for hosting this. Daniela for waking up at 3 a.m. or staying up until 3 a.m. to do it. And all of you guys for showing up.
But that's how much I love Orange Klik. This event is my favorite event of the year.
It is the best.
Thank you.
All right, you guys.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.
Bye, guys. Thanks, everybody.
Bye. Now I would like to invite you to watch another video where you will learn strategies on how you can work with A+ content and brand story. So check this out.